do a little mic check. Sounds like everything's working. Perfect. All right. So, before we dig in, obviously we're going to talk about the Sylvaneth rules. Let's see if I can get this out of my face. I need to really get better at placing this handsome feller. If we move it back here, can you guys hear me still? Let's see. Not so well, huh? I love you too, buddy. Hopefully your scans go well and everything will be cool and we'll be able to play some Blood Bowl today. So, before we dig into the Sylvaneth rules, that's obviously what we're going to talk about today. Some things I want to say. First is, I don't have... Oh, okay, sorry. I don't have the full context of the core rules yet. I have not played a full game. I've read through them. I understand the basics behind it, stuff like that. But I don't know everything. You know, there's a big difference between theoretical and practical knowledge. Right now I have practical knowledge. And I also haven't really looked at the other army indexes yet, so I don't know the context of their rules. So I'm going into this with a very fresh perspective. I have no clue what we're getting into. I know I've heard people say, they're bad, they're poopy, and that's fine. I don't care. What I care about is, do they look fun? Do they look interesting? Because you can make a bad army work as long as you're having fun playing it and you learn how to use it. And that's just always been kind of my approach. And Sylvaneth is... I have a couple different Sigmar armies. I'm building Stormcast right now. Sylvaneth was the army that really got me into Sigmar, mostly because I just have always loved the Wildwood models and Dryads. Those have always been some of my favorite models because I played Wood Elves back in Old Fantasy. So that's really what drew me to the army. So a little bit of background there. The other thing I wanted to say is we have finally hit 1,000 subscribers. So I wanted to thank all of you at the beginning of this for sharing, liking, and doing all of that. You know, I appreciate it when you guys like and subscribe and even comment on the videos. That all helps me get more views. Hey, what's up, buddy? Long time no see. Hype train. That's right, man. You know, so it's one of those, I'm pretty excited. We finally hit 1,000. I arguably probably would have hit it sooner, but I stopped doing 40K content. We're not going to dig into that too deep. I've already said my piece on it. I may do a little bit more here with the new changes. I'm going to play some games, see if the newer changes fix anything. But I'm leaning towards it's not going to fix the things that I don't necessarily like about 10th. And it's also going to largely depend on whether or not they fix some of the issues I've already seen, such as the pivot rule. I think the pivot rule, let me take these off again, bad glare, sorry for that. Because I think the pivot rule is one of those things that had some unintentional consequences. And, you know, I know, like, as a Drukhari player, hey, thanks a lot, man. Yeah, dude, I'm so pumped. As a Drukhari player, I see them, like, just slamming tournaments. And I keep thinking about it going, well, they haven't changed. Because I have kept up a little bit. But they haven't changed. So why are they suddenly winning? And I suspect it's a combination of cheesing the pivot rule and then cheesing the secret missions. So, yeah, 1K, buddy, 1,000. K is short for kilo, which is 1,000. So anytime you see K, that just means 1,000. For those that don't know, Elijah in the chat is my son. So let's keep it nice and respectful. Not that I've ever had a problem with that. Everybody's always been wonderful in the chats. So, but yeah, that's what he's referring to, buddy. He is out at the hospital right now getting scanned, so we can confirm that he is still cancer-free. So that's what's going on with him. And it's pretty cool that he gets to watch me work. And now I actually get to get paid for it. Let's go. Yeah, so I suspect that Drukari's win rate is really a big combo of cheesing the pivot rule and then cheesing secret missions. But we'll see. I'm going to dig into it a little bit. We're actually getting ready to do a competitive league. So I've got a list put together. I might do a review on the list and kind of talk on that again. But that's not what we're here for today. We're doing a surprise stream to kind of celebrate 1,000, and we're going to talk about Sigmar. The new rules look absolutely fantastic. Like I said, I haven't gotten to play them. I have talked to people who have played through it very, very deeply, I guess. I don't know, words. They've gotten a couple games in already, and really, really good at the game. So their opinions, to me, mean a lot more than my opinion does with regard to Sigmar, and they have nothing but glowing reviews for it. My FLGS is looking to roll into new AoS hard. Very curious. I have some Seraphon looking to build. Seraphon is pretty dope. That's what my boy has. Hey, I appreciate that. Good Harold with the subscription. I appreciate you, my man. That is very nice. So we'll dig in. I'm going to dig into a few of them. I want to dig into Seraphon, which we won't do today. Obviously, we're going to do Sylvaneth because that's my first play. We're going to dig into Nighthawk because that's what my daughter has. And we're going to dig into Seraphon because that's what my son has. And then we'll probably dig into Stormcast and then Goblins because those are like the two other armies that are kind of floating around in my house. We are definitely kind of a gaming Warhammer family. And so it's one of those where it's always good to have all these different things at the house that we can all play together. We actually just recently started getting into Warcry. Eli and I just played our first game of that the other day, and he and I had an absolute blast. Okay, buddy. Good luck. Hopefully everything goes well. Thanks for watching. And, when you're done, I might still be on. We'll see. I love you. But yeah, going back to your comment on the new AoS, like the rules look fantastic. And we'll kind of talk about the core rules throughout the next couple of weeks as well. I've just been really grinding on a build project for GW. I've had like 4 or 5 Titanic tables, 25 Blood Bowl teams, 12 40K tables, and then just some other stuff here and there that I've had to build and paint. So it's just been grinding, a lot of work. And I'm finally to a point where it's starting to kind of slow down. So we'll be digging back into some of this stuff a bit more. So battle traits. Sylvaneth armies can use the following abilities. And these are just abilities that your army gets access to. Once per turn, army, end of any turn. Now, it's once per turn per army is my assumption on what that means. Again, I haven't dug into it super hard. I've read through them. I've learned quite a bit, and so far, the rules make sense. One of the first changes you're going to notice is everything has just been changed into an ability, which is way easier. It's almost like USRs, but not quite like USRs. It's kind of weird, but it just makes the game flow from a visual perspective, and again, getting feedback from the more experienced AoS players, because I've only played AoS like a handful of times. I played like 15 games in the last year, so not a ton. But once per turn, you can endless growth at the end of any turn. You pick any number of friendly Sylvaneth units wholly within 6 inches of an awakened wildwood, and they can heal D3. The main thing there is remember that healing is not returning. I did have to ask on that. I didn't think it would be, because I think even in the previous edition they were different. And even in 40K, it usually tells you when you can put models back. But I just wanted to make sure. So this really only helps with your multi-wound models. There may be things in there that alter it. I don't remember at this point. But, if you've got Kurnoth Hunters or Tree Lords, like, extra healing is always good. Strike and Fade once per turn at the end of any turn. Now this one's kind of I don't want to say a step back, because again, if everybody else's abilities were changed in the same direction, then it's not really a nerf. It's just a change in how the rules work. So that's another important thing. If you're coming from last edition, and you're looking at this going, well, this was better in last edition. Well, yeah, it was better in last edition, but the other thing to keep in mind was if everybody else's rules work the same way, like they all kind of made the same lateral change, then it's not really a nerf. It's just a change in the way the game works. Now, that doesn't mean it wasn't better in last edition. It's just try to go into it with the context of this just potentially is a change in how the game itself works, not just in this army. But at the end of any turn, and that's also cool, any turn is yours or mine, you pick a friendly Sylvaneth unit that is within combat and wholly within 6 inches of an Awakened Wildwood to use this ability. And then they can teleport basically to another Awakened Wildwood. So this will look very familiar. They get to teleport from tree to tree. It is once per turn. So again, an army that really needed a lot of mobility. It looks like some of that mobility is getting toned down. And I could be wrong, and again, once we dig into this, we might find some more things. And I could be wrong. That is one thing I've seen is like, okay, if I'm only limited to 1 unit per turn, like this starts becoming very... What's the word I'm looking for? You really got to think about it, But this is, you have to be in combat too. So this is kind of like the old version when you could fight and then leave. The difference is now your enemy also gets to fight because it's at the end of the turn, not after you fight, right? And then once per turn, in your movement phase, you can walk the hidden paths. And this is just a regular teleport, and this happens in the movement phase. And you still have to be 9 inches from all enemy units, and then wholly within 6 inches of a different Awakened Wildwood. So that really hasn't changed. Excuse me. And then you can pick one of the following battle formations. These are kind of like your army bonuses, right? So it's one of those where you pick one of them and then your army gets it. And then this is just like your army rule. This is what your bonus is. So Healing Song's like if you have a bunch of monsters, right? Like a bunch of Tree Lords and Ancients and Durthus and all that jazz. Or I'm sure Balthanos might be a monster. I haven't looked at him yet. But when they use Endless Growth, they just heal 3 instead of D3. So that's super good. If that's what you're playing into. That's not how I play. For those that know me, they know what I'm about. And, so that's not one I would use personally. The next one is Forest Folk, and this is one I would probably use. Just because I tend to bring a lot of Dryads just because I love them. You add one to the rend characteristics of melee weapons used by friendly Sylvaneth non-Kurnoth infantry units that charged in the same turn. You can get, and I don't remember the process, but you can get Dryad swings to neg 2, or rend 2, I guess, but... Which, again, I don't know the context of it, because I haven't looked at anything, but if I'm pushing Stormcast, for example, to a 4-up or a 5-up save with Dryads, I'm not going to complain. Outcasts, you subtract 3 from the control scores of enemy units while they are in combat with friendly Sylvaneth units. That one's actually pretty interesting. I'd have to see how it interacts. I haven't looked too deeply into the control rules. Based on the way this is worded, I assume that control is by unit and not by model, but I could be wrong on that. I would have to double check it. I'm not going to do that now. I want to get through the Sylvaneth stuff. And then Free Spirits, declare, pick a friendly Sylvaneth cavalry unit to use this ability. It can run and charge. So 1 unit can run and charge in your charge phase. That one is rough. And again, I haven't looked at other armies. So I haven't looked at the Sea Elves with the turtles. Can't think of what they're called. But I haven't looked at them, so I don't know if their run and charge got limited or not. And then, what is it? Daughters of Cain, I think, also had it. So I don't know. I don't know how they also changed. So it's one of those where if everybody's limited to 1 unit as opposed to just army-wide, this isn't so bad. But if this is only the Sylvaneth that got limited, then yeah, that's kind of rough. Heroic traits is kind of like your warlord traits, right? For those of you who do a lot of 40k or have done a lot of 40k like me. Radiant Spirit. If this unit is wholly within 12 inches of a friendly Sylvaneth unit picked to be the target of that spell or prayer, on a 3-up, you can ignore the effect of that spell or prayer on that unit. This unit can use this ability more than once per phase, but only once per spell or prayer. Interesting. So this unit, you can pick, the wording on this is kind of like messing me up. You can pick a unit wholly within 12 of the bearer when they are when they are affected by a spell or prayer, and on a 3-up, they can ignore the effect of that spell or prayer, and you can use it more than once per phase, but only once per spell or prayer ability. That seems pretty good. Again, I haven't looked at all the spells, so I don't know the context of it, but having a 66% chance of just like, nah, dog, that ain't me. You don't get to do that. Seems alright to me. I could be missing something, but that seems like one that I would probably take. In your movement phase, you could take Warsinger. You pick a friendly Sylvaneth unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target, and you add 2 to the move characteristic for the rest of the turn. Again, seems okay. Like, I don't hate it. I don't love it. Having +2 to your movement isn't the worst thing to have. I don't remember how far or fast everything moves, but I feel like it got a little slower. And if it did, it's almost like it got a little slower to justify this warlord trait. But overall, like, I would take the other one over this. I would take Radiant Spirit over this. And then Spellsinger. While you're within combat range of an Awakened Wildwood, you add 1 to the casting rolls for the unit. And if it's not already a wizard, it becomes Wizard 1 instead. And that's actually really good. You know, anything that makes you better at casting or gives you access to more spells, not bad. You know, like, you do have to be right on top, nut to butt, to your trees. Which you kind of have to already. Like, with a 6-inch aura around the trees, you kind of are already sitting in that zone or area. And so it's one of those, like, not terrible. Spells have changed a little bit too, which we'll get into, at least how you pick them. You pick, if I remember right, you pick your tome or your lore, and then you just can cast any of the spells in your lore. You're not picking individual spells anymore. Artifacts of Power, Relics of Nature, Hero Only, Seed of Rebirth. So this is, again, your artifacts. If this unit would be destroyed on a 3-up, it's not destroyed, and any remaining damage points inflicted on it have no effect. Then you heal 1 this unit. This cannot, and then it's once per game. I don't think that's bad. I'd have to play with it, just because, again, I'm not a big fan of resurrect abilities. I know players that love them. I know players that don't. I'm in the camp that don't. Just because, man, like, I understand it could be game-changing, but at the same time, a 3-up, man, if I roll that 1 or 2, it's going to feel real poopy. And I would rather have something that's less good, but more consistent. And that's just that's just my mindset. The Greenwood Gladius. You pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target. You roll a d3, and on a 2-up, you inflict an amount of mortal damage equal to the roll. So basically, you, on a 1, do nothing. On a 2, do 2 mortal wounds. On a 3, do 3 mortal wounds. Again, we're talking about a 33% chance for it to just not do anything. I don't hate it. I don't love it. Like, that's the issue I see with a lot of the artifacts for this army so far. Is that there's nothing inherently wrong with them, but they just don't, like, jump out at me. If I remember right, the Crown of Fellbowers looked pretty solid, though. You declare an enemy unit in combat, and then on a 3-up, add 1 to wound rolls for combat attacks made by friendly Sylvaneth units that target the enemy unit this phase. Yeah, that one was pretty good. I would gamble that one. Because if I can, again, because of how I play, like, if I can get a bunch of Dryads in with you, and then also have that in with you. It's just funny. Like, haha, here's my bucket of Dryad attacks that are Rend 2 and +1 to wound, nerd. Eat it. And then your spell lore. Like I said, I think, if I remember right, you just pick the lore, and then your wizards can just cast from the lore. I don't think you have to pick... You know what? We will check that one right now. I've got to have my glasses, man. Getting old sucks, dude. I tell you what. Sorry about the glare, but, like... Grandpa needs his goggles. AoS rules. That's not what I wanted, but that's okay. We can just do that. And for some reason, man, PDFs do not run well in Chrome. But they'll run, like, super smooth in Edge. Lore. Gotta wait for that to load up. Alright, here we go. Pick lores. Pick one spell lore available to your faction. Yeah, that's what it is. My vision sucks. Maps. Yeah. So I've always had like 20/20 near perfect vision my whole life. But because of like TBIs and shit, I just had like this weird thing where my eyes would just lose focus occasionally. And I went to the doctor and they gave me glasses for it, and they did help. And then I lost them in the fire. Which happened about 2 years ago, and about a year ago, I started going through the process of getting them replaced. And it's funny because I just didn't realize how much my vision had deteriorated in that, like, time span. And it was so funny because, like, I put the glasses on and I was just like, oh, Jesus, I didn't even realize I was this blind. It's a bit rough going from, like, God dang, dude, I could see anything everywhere all the time to... Well, let me go ahead and wipe these off so I can see better, you know. So brutal, man. So yeah, you just pick your lores. Let's see if we can find. Yeah. Well, so like my wife has like her eyes are fucking terrible. She's got a pick one spell lore. Yeah, she's got contacts. She won't wear glasses. She hates glasses. I won't wear contacts. Because I, like, not too many things make me squeamish, man. But I can't mess with eyeballs. Like, that makes me super uncomfortable. Yeah, right? Like, oh my gosh, how can you read that? You can pick one spell lore available. Yep, you know all spells from that lore. I just want to double check that. Tree Song. Declare, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so you pick a friendly wizard to cast a spell, then make a casting roll of 2d6. If there are fewer than 3 Awakened Wildwoods on the battlefield, you can set up an Awakened Wildwood wholly within 18 inches of the caster and more than 3 inches away from all enemy models, units, objectives, and terrain features. If there are 3, then you can heal each Wildwood 3. So... Excuse me, Wildwoods actually have health now. I assume all the terrain has health now. Because I assume the monstrous rampage to just like disable terrain has been taken away. And you just fight the terrain to get rid of it now. I could be wrong, but that is my assumption. But so you can heal them if there are 3, or you can put a new one up. Wrathful Spirits. Pick a friendly Sylvaneth wizard to cast this spell. Pick a friendly Awakened Wildwood wholly within 18. And then make a casting roll. Until the start of your next turn, add 1 to the rend characteristics of melee weapons used by... That's how we got to rend 2. I was trying to remember. So, you know, this one's pretty good. I like it. Again, everything's predicated on being nut to butt with your trees, which I'm not opposed to. I understand why you're limited to 3, but it does seem kind of weird that, like, hey, you're limited to having 3 of these, but you also want to have your whole army within 6 inches of 3 of these. So again, it's just one of those, like, placement's going to be very important, and it just feels a little weird. Declare, pick a friendly Sylvaneth model or wizard to cast this spell. Pick a visible enemy unit. Okay, so you can pick an enemy unit within 6 inches of an awakened wildwood to be the target, then make a casting roll of 2d6. Roll a number of dice equal to the models in the unit. Each 5-up does a mortal wound. So, nothing crazy. Like, just your standard stuff. Manifestation Lore. These are your endless spells. I haven't really looked at these. I haven't looked at any of the endless spell stuff at all. Simply because I've not really used them. So it's one of those, like, I just didn't look into them. I love them. I think they're gorgeous models. But, like the Summon Spite Swarm Hive, if there is not a friendly Spite Swarm, pick a blah, 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 blah. Set up a holy... oh, and then they'll probably have a data sheet, is what it... Or War Scroll, sorry. Okay. So that's kind of like the spells, and like I said, the Warlord traits, the artifacts. And overall, they're not terrible. Like I said, there's just like, they're just kind of, they're not exciting. I don't even mean they're good or bad. I just mean, like, I look at them and I'm just like, nothing about them makes me go, oh boy, I can't wait to get that on the table, you know. Alariel, the Ever Queen. She's got her Spear of Kurnoth, you know, +2, hits on 2s, wounds on 3s, Rend 2, damage 4, so that's pretty spicy. It is a single attack, so you're probably going to roll a 1 more often than not. But in melee, she's got a whole bucket of dice to roll. And that is meaty. And I do like how the bracketing has been changed. I think that is a fantastic change. Rather than having these weird tier systems, it's just like, hey, when this guy takes this much damage, or this lady, this attack loses volume, or this happens. Like, it's very straightforward. It's very easy. I didn't hate the bracketing system in AoS at all. I didn't hate it in 40k at all. I didn't love it. I just kind of took it for what it was. But I do like the way this works a lot. It makes sense. I'm down with it. And it doesn't make your models almost completely useless if they take a lot of damage, which is always nice. And then in any hero phase, you can Life Bloom. You pick one of the following effects. You can add 1 to casting rolls for this unit, which again, very good. And then heal 2d3 this unit, which again, very good. Metamorphosis. You can pick a visible enemy unit within 12 inches, then make a casting roll. It does 2d3 mortal wounds, and if the target is destroyed, you can immediately resolve the effect of the Tree Song spell as if this unit had successfully cast it, which, again, cool, but we run into that issue of you're limited to 3 trees, and you may not need a Tree Song spell then. Rite of Life. Pick a friendly Sylvaneth unit, blah, 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 blah. Pick a friendly Sylvaneth destroyed. Roll a die on a 4-up. Set up a replacement unit with half the number of models from the target unit, rounding up wholly within 9 inches of a friendly wildwood and more than 9 inches from enemy units. If the target was a monster, allocate 8 points of damage to the replacement unit. Ward rolls cannot be made for those damage points. Not bad. Anything that lets you bring models back is good, even if it's on a 4-up. Like, that's still fine. If you're playing a 5-turn game, that means you're going to get 2.5 successes every game, on average. You know, so, again, if you've got like a 20 brick of Dryads or something, that's not the worst thing you could have happen. Once per turn in any charge phase, if this unit charged this turn, Countercharge, that's right. And pick an infantry unit within 1 inch to be the target. So you can just, like, do mortal wounds on the on the charge. Lady of the Vines. We're not going to dig into her attacks. She's right there. I'm more interested in... I don't have her. She's a gorgeous model. And that is one I do want. And I believe... she's a monster. Really? Interesting. So she's got the Verdian Crown. Counts as a... oh, god dang. Okay. Already like this. She counts as an awakened wildwood for the purposes of endless growth, walk the hidden paths, and strike and fade abilities. That's pretty meaty. How many... god dang. I'll have to look and see how many points she is. I'm going to be picking her up for sure. Good lord. Because that could effectively give you 4 Awakened Wildwoods on the table for a lot of your abilities, which is super, super handy. And then... Aspect of the Everqueen. She's got a 12-inch bubble of 5-up ward, which is also good. So yeah, she's definitely worth taking. Once per turn. And I don't have a huge Sylvaneth army. I've not been like balls deep into AoS the way I was into 40k. But this is definitely like I've got a 2,000 point Stormcast. I've got 2,000 points of trees, and then I've probably got... we're not going to discuss how many goblins I got, but I got them in a trade. Like, I have almost infinite goblins. Pick an enemy unit in combat. On a 2-up, pick one of the following effects. You can -1 hit rolls for them, or add 1 to hit rolls against them. Not bad. That's a solid ability. I like it overall, and she's, you know... I can get behind her. Like, she's pretty meaty looking. Drycha, another... again, I don't have any of this stuff. So, this is actually helping me kind of figure out what it is I need to get. Once per turn in any hero phase, pick one of the following effects to apply to this unit for the rest of the turn. Add 10 to the attacks characteristic of this unit's Flitter Furies. God dang. I mean, sure, it only hits on 4s, but that's pretty meaty. And it has shoot in combat, range 12. And so, before we get too far into this, the one thing I'm going to tell you guys is, from a competitive standpoint, I get the feeling that they are going to be a bring as many ranged attacks as you can and hide behind trees army, because the trees now have the obscuring ability, but your army gets to ignore that. So you can shoot through your own trees, but your opponents can't shoot through them. So you can add 10, or you can add 10 to its swarm of squirmlings, which is effectively the same thing. But they do get bonus rend against infantry, so that's kind of neat. I don't know what companion means. I assume it's like the 40k version of extra attacks, where like you can't modify the number of attacks unless an ability specifically modifies it. But that's an assumption. We'll look it up. Actually, you know, I have it open. Let's find out what companion does. Right meow. I gotta wait. It does take it a minute. Might be time to, like, clean this thing off. This weapon is not affected by abilities used by a friendly unit that affect the attacks. Yep, okay. Man, that TISM really helps me make those crossovers. Once per turn in any combat phase, pick an enemy unit, roll a die on a 2-up, have the target's control score rounding up for the rest of the turn. That's pretty meaty also. Song of Spite. Pick an enemy infantry unit within 12 inches of the caster to be the target. Add 1 to... so you pick... okay. Add 1 to hit rolls for combat attacks made by Sylvaneth units. So you can add 1 to hit rolls. In addition, add 1 to wound rolls for Spite Revenants or Twist Wield units that target the enemy unit. I don't know what a Twist Wield unit is yet. It's got to be a keyword, is my assumption. Spite Revenants are cool, though. I like those. They you know... I just like the little trees, you know? Belthanos. Let's see what this handsome bastard does. 4 attacks. Run 2. Companion. Kurnoth Glaive. He's meaty. Bonus damage on the charge. Battle damage. Yeah. Pick an enemy combat. On a 2-up, inflict an amount of mortal wounds equal to the roll. Then you can remove this unit from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield within 1 inch of the target. That's pretty cool. Like, that's really cool. On a... Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, I was actually just reading about that specific... Because I wanted to see when it was coming out, and I don't think we have a launch date for them. I just didn't realize that's what they were called. Thanks a lot for that, man. So far, like, I don't hate what I'm seeing from the units themselves. Roll a d3, and on a 2-up, inflict mortal wounds, and then you can remove the unit from the battlefield and set it up again within 1 inch. So you could really get a lot of, like, extra movement out of that if you can position well. He's a meaty model, so it might be kind of hard to teleport him around. The main thing to also keep in mind is it doesn't say you have to be away from everybody else. It just says you have to be within 1 inch of the target. So you could end up like using that to tie up other units as well. Unless I'm missing something, but like I said, I'll have to dig through the core rules a little bit more. Pick a terrain feature within 6 inches of this unit to be the target. For the rest of the battle, the target gains the Place of Power terrain ability and counts as a friendly Awakened Wildwood. Okay, so you do have ways to get more, so that's pretty nice. Once per battle, and that is once per game. Kurnoth Warhorn. Each target can use charge abilities even if they... That's pretty nice. Pretty nice. Warsong Revenant, and we're not gonna like, I'm not gonna sit here and go through every single individual thing. Yep, exactly. Let you jump units, get into heroes, or even just tying up like shittier units that are trying to get away and control objectives, force them to have to like retreat as opposed to, you could kind of try to use it to tar pit as well as hop to make attacks on other things. It has a lot of utility, absolutely. Alariel Song, 6-up ward. Subtract 1 from ward rolls for enemy units. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Unleash Swarm of Spites. Roll a d3 for each target. So it looks like the characters look pretty good. Let's see. Wildwood Revenants. Add 1 to Unbinding rolls and Banishment rolls for this unit. Well, it is okay. Arch Revenant. Alright. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, when I look at this, man, like, the characters look really good. And I think where people are getting hung up is that the Wildwood interactions have been toned down. Which, I mean, I get it. I get the frustration if you're one of those players that has used your woods and teleported, which you really have to with this army. So I think a lot of players are looking at the well, I can't just jump 20 units in a turn now. I'm only limited to like 1, maybe 2. But I'm looking at these characters, and so far all the war scrolls look pretty solid. The relics and the warlord traits are kind of like lackluster. Like I said, there's nothing in there that pops. And I'm not even talking from a good, bad standpoint. I'm just talking from a... There's nothing I read that's like, this is amazing. The main weakness I see is a reliance on casting to get wildwoods out and the wildwood footprints being useful positions. Yeah, and that's fair. It's one of those, like... To me, the biggest weakness I see is that you're basically limited to 3. And that, to me, is, like, the biggest hindrance. And not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but, it's like I was saying earlier, it's like, 3 wildwoods is like, okay, I need to have my whole army within 6 inches of 3 points on the battlefield. Yeah, and that's fair. I'm a goose, so I'm still probably bringing 60, 70 dryads to a game, but that's just how I live my life. Yeah, that's true. I don't have to listen to Kevin 2 complain every time I play him, and that's just how I'm going to refer to him from now on, as just Kevin 2. And that's only because he was the second Kevin I met in AoS, you know? Oh man, I do appreciate how much he grumbles when we would play and I would use my Sylvaneth. And I'm like, bro, I'm not even that good. Calm down. Let's see, the Arch Revenant. Pick one of the following. Add one to the attacks characteristics of this unit's melee weapons. Add one to wound rolls for this unit's combat attacks. Okay, not bad. Any combat phase, it can get a 4-up ward if it takes the defensive. So pretty good. And that's fair. Champion of Kurnoth. Add one to wound rolls for combat attacks made by Kurnoth units. And that's pretty good. You know, like, Kurnoth units are still solid. So anything that buffs them is still going to be good. And he is so handsome. Look at that dude. That thing is so cool. Coming from a kill. Yeah, I mean, I just don't like dwarves. It's not even KO. And my distaste for dwarves has nothing to do with anything but Blood Bowl. Like, that is where my distaste for dwarves stems from. And we're talking like 20 plus years of dwarf hatred that's just been brewing because of Blood Bowl. Spirit of Durthu, let's go. Verdant Blast, 5 attacks. Hits on 4s, wounds on 3s, rend 1, 2 damage. Solid. Anti-monster, +1 rend. Solid. I don't know that we need him to be rend 4, but the fact that we can make him rend 4 is pretty funny. Into monsters specifically. I think I've got a few entries in the book, man. Titanic Duel. Declare an enemy monster in the combat with this unit to be the target. Roll a die on a 3-up. Subtract 1 from the attack's character. That's pretty good. I wouldn't say it's great, but it's pretty good. And depending on the unit, it could be very handy. Like, being able to be like, all your melee weapons lose 1 attack. Not bad. Add 1 to hit rolls for this unit's combat attacks while the target is within 3 inches of an awakened wildwood. It's one of those where I'm like mixed on this stuff because he now hits on 4s so that we can justify doing this. And again, I get it. It's just kind of weird. It's funny, and I don't think it would perform poorly. I'm just like I'm here for the memes. Every game I play, I tend to just be like, what's the silliest thing I can take? And then I'll go to a tournament and be like, how well can I do with this dumb thing that I've brought? Like, that's just always been my approach. And so, you know, like I showed up to one tournament that Kevin ran with, what? I think it was 70 dryads. I won 1 game. And, yeah, Sylvaneth has some beautiful models. And it is one of those armies that, like, it fundamentally fits the way I like to play the game, and it has the aesthetic that I like. Like I said, the Wildwood alone we're like, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do. So, you know, and I think I won 1 game at the tournament, but I was never out of any of them. And like I said, I just showed up with like 70 dryads and a handful of tree lords, and was just like, hey, this is what we're doing. But to be fair, that was like my 4th game of AoS also. So. The regular tree wards, what do they do? Pick an enemy unit in combat. -1 to wound rolls for the target's attacks for the rest of the turns. Okay. So you pick, and it says, so again, like, this isn't terrible, because it's not when they target the tree man, it's just you pick an enemy unit, and they have to subtract 1 from their wound rolls. So that's a pretty solid ability. Entangling Grasp, pick an enemy unit that had any damage points. I feel like this one could be really good. Again, I don't have the context of other armies yet, but if I shoot you with my Strangle Roots on a 3-up, you can't use run or retreat abilities until the start of your next turn, right? So, coming from 40k and any other game like that, I can tell you that anytime you can mess with somebody's mobility, it's almost always a good thing. So, I could foresee this being a pretty solid ability. Maybe it's matchup specific, but still good. Tree Lord Ancient. He's got the Doom Tendril Staff. That's how you have to say it now, guys. Anytime you play with or against Sylvaneth, that better be how you say it. Doom Tendrils. The Ground Shaker. Pick an enemy unit in combat on a 4-up. It has the Strike Last. No, I'm just joking. I just wish it was a 3-up still. But, you know, a 50-50 to make you have to wait until I'm done playing the game. Not bad. Just don't count on it. It's one of those, like, you go into that going, this is a bonus. If it happens, awesome. You just don't count on it. And then he can awaken the wood. And this is the other thing I wanted to point out, because I thought there was somebody that had it. Pick a visible friendly awaken wildwood. He could just, like, do mortal wounds from the wildwoods. So, again, pretty solid. Branch Witch. I've got a bunch of these. I'm telling you guys, like I'm literally thinking about just, like, oops, all Branch Witch and Dryad. Like, oh well. If this unit is wholly within 6 inches of an awakened wildwood, pick any friendly Sylvaneth unit wholly within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. On a 3-up, it gets strike first. So again, good. Like, anything, again, to me, anything that manipulates the combat order, good. I haven't looked at the points for the Tree Lords compared to Durthu. Well, let me rephrase. I haven't looked at the points in a couple days. And it's one of those where if all the Tree Lord and the Ancient need are a points adjustment to make them playable, that's not the end of the world, you know? Like, hey, this is a good War Scroll, but it needs to come down like 20 points. Right, and that's exactly what I was... Yep, you're on it, Kevin. And that's one of those, like... That's how I see it, is... I don't care what the points are, because the points will probably get fixed. Are the War Scrolls good? So, and again, I'm coming from a long time in 40k, and when 10th dropped, I play Drukhari. Like, my data sheets weren't even good. So, like, the points adjustments didn't even fix the army. So, like, when I look at this, I'm like, hey, these are actually just good War Scrolls. So, if the points get fixed, cool. That just means they will be playable at some point in the near future. I do love me some Branch Witches. These things are awesome. And I'm going to get some. These are, A, like a great War Scroll, and B, super cool models. The Gossamed Bow's got a 12-inch range, 2 attacks, 3s, rend 1, 1 damage. Crits, auto wound, and then, so I assume that's like lethal hits. And then shoot in combat. Their melee's real bad, but that's not why you take them. This unit has a coherency range of 2 inches, so they can kind of like bubble up. It's almost like the old skirmish ability for you fantasy players. But once per turn in any shooting phase, if this unit used a shoot ability, it can move d6 inches. So it's got the kind of like shoot move, or move shoot move ability. And the fact that you can use it in any shooting phase, what is it, Unleash Hell? I forget what it's like now is. But like there's still a similar mechanic if I remember right. So it's one of those like, man, that's good. Again, I'm coming from the perspective of anything that gives you more mobility is going to be good. Like, to me, I see this 12-inch move, potentially 13, to 18, right? 13 to 18. Like, that's awesome to me. And then look at him. He's so cool, man. God dang. The twist wield. So this is the, that's what it's called. Thank you. One thing. Warcry. I'm not going to dig too much into this just because... Oh my god. That dude's dope. More than 6 inches from all other... Oh. Subtract D3 from... Yeah, alright. So that's pretty good. Yeah, I'll probably pick that up. And we, like I said, we've been getting... Like, my son and I have been playing Warcry, and he loves it. So that's awesome. I'm super pumped about that. Spite Rider Lance. Sharp mandibles. Coherency range of 2 inches. Heal 3 this unit. Are they... How many wounds do they have? Health, sorry. If this unit charged this turn, roll a die on a 3 up. The unit has strike first for the rest of the turn. That's pretty good, too. So these are pretty good. I've always been kind of mixed on these aesthetically. Like, I like the models, but I don't know, man. Like, I hate bugs. That's why I don't play Tyranids. Warcry is a fantastic game, and I have enjoyed playing it with the kids. And actually, once we wrap up this season of the Blood Bowl League, a lot of the guys in Plymouth are wanting to do a Warcry League. So that's pretty cool. So we're going to probably start rotating Blood Bowl and Warcry just so we don't get that burnout. Like, we've had basically 4 straight months of Blood Bowl, so... Yeah. Well, and I do think... So looking at... I do remember the Tree Revenants and even the Dryads seem a touch expensive for what you're getting from them. You know, but it's one of those, like I said, like, if points are too high, that's a quick and easy fix that will happen. Like, I don't sweat points. Hell yeah, brother. I hope you do. I'm just going to bring a whole bunch of Dryads to that, too, so... They're thrumming with life. That sounds dirty. Alright. Heal 3 this unit at the end of any turn. Each time a friendly unit wholly within 12. You get 3 additional rally rolls. And I know rally changed, so that's pretty cool. Cavalry, Kurnoth Hunters. So the Kurnoth stuff seems pretty good still. I did dig through them. While this unit is contesting an objective, Sylvaneth units that are also contesting that objective have a ward of 6 up. So again, like, it's not like, oh my god, this is amazing. But man, I'm telling you, anything that allows me to roll a die is better than anything that doesn't, you know? So having a 6 up ward isn't the worst thing. If I can touch them onto an objective, they get a 6 up ward. I had to make sure it didn't say other friendly. They get a 6 up ward. But then again, like, you can tank, like, you can throw, like, a bigger unit on there, too. And just be like, okay, we're going to sit on here. Give them a ward. And again, like, sure, it's only a 6. But something's better than nothing. I don't hate that Rally doesn't have it. Or 40k doesn't have it. I mean, they kind of do, but it's only certain armies. Because it's like stratagems, you know. Like Nids can kind of do it with certain units and stuff like that. 40k doesn't really have much in the way of healing at all. Which, I actually prefer it now. Compared to like where it was in previous editions. Where like, my Pain Boy did literally the exact same thing as an Apothecary, but worse. So that always felt bad. You know, my opponent be like, here's my Apothecary, ha ha ha, here's my free Space Marine, and I'm like, oh, here's my die roll. On a 1, I just kill myself. Like, why? But it's one of those, like, to me, I don't mind that it doesn't have it. I like that it's at least uniform, you know what I mean? Like, at least we're to a point now where it's not super unbalanced, where it's like, well, we both have the same ability, but yours is inherently better because you have the Imperium tag. If this unit charged this turn, pick an enemy unit in combat on a 3-up, or roll a number of dice for each model in the unit. Do 1 mortal wound on... Yeah, so they just do a mortal wound on the charge. Like, they're not... Again, they're not crazy good. But they have a 4-up save. They have 5 health each. And, you know, they bonk pretty good. With access to Rend 2 with a spell. So not bad. And these are some of my favorite Sylvaneth models. And then the scythes. What's the difference between the scythes? Oh, the scythes are damage 3. And they're anti-charge bonus rend. God dang. And then these do mortals on crits. And then other than that, they do the same thing. The ones with bows are the only ones that are even remotely different. These have anti-hero +1 rend. They are 2 attacks at 18. So, like, the bow ones are pretty good. And then they can ignore the guarded hero ability for the rest of the turn. Which I assume, without looking, that it works like 8th and 9th Ed screening did for 40k now, as opposed to the Lookout Sir -1 to hit. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you're in there, Kevin. Well, that's the beauty of what you just said, though, because you could just pretend that they're not elves, right? Like, you could just pretend that they're actual fungus. So really, you just want to play orcs, is what I'm hearing. All right, dryads. I still love dryads. They move 6. They have a 5-up save, so it's like really they didn't change a ton. Yeah, that's what I thought. Like, still hit on 4, still wound on 4s. There's still no rend. Okay, I see. So the -1 to hit is still a thing. Okay. And they're still -1 to hit and wound while they're within 6 of an awakened wildwood. So, like, still love dryads. I still think they are just the bee's knees. Like, I think, honestly, 110 points is probably 5 or 10 points too much for 10 of them. But I also understand that if you start making them too cheap, they could get silly really quick. Especially being able to give them a 5-up ward and, you know, -1 to hit, -1 to wound. Like, they could get a little nerve-wracking. But I still love me some dryads. Tree Revenants. These have 2 health. That's why they're the same price as dryads. I see. And they hit on 3s. And they're rend 1. God dang. If this unit is not in combat, so they just teleport. Arguably, that's why they're expensive, is the utility you can get out of teleporting. Again, I've got to look at the battle tactics and stuff like that to see how well that could help you score certain battle tactics, etc. But the fact that you can just jump them is probably why they're expensive. I have a unit of these, actually. So that's cool. I'm trying to paint them up like birch trees. I have 3... I have my original 3 wildwood. And then I have 3 more wildwood that I'm going to try to paint up like birch trees. And then I'm going to have a gnarl oak that I'm going to try to sneak in when I go to tournaments and say, hey, I'm going to use this as a single wildwood. Exactly. You know, it's kind of like the move, shoot, move. Like, there's barely any time I've ever thought, man, this is bad. Pick an enemy infantry unit in combat with this unit to be the target on a 3-up. They cannot use commands for the rest of the turn. That's the Spite Revenants. And there are 2 wounds. They're no rend. Again, I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's game changing. They have to be in combat. Yeah, that's what I like to hear. Dude, that's such a cool model too. God dang, that thing is awesome. I can't wait till that Sylvaneth Warcry box drops, because I am going to get that whole box. And it's Seraphon, so like Eli and I are just going to split that thing up. He's got the Realm Shaper. We just got a Realm Shaper. I've got a Gnarloak. Like, I'm so pumped. I've been trying to get my daughter into this stuff, and like she could take it or leave it for the most part. She's actually shown a lot of interest in AoS 4. But like, just trying to get her to do anything right now is like pulling teeth. But she's 13. Like, she's at that age where it's like she just wants to be angsty and listen to music and like, you know, be an angsty teen. I could see that. And I don't think they're bad. Like, I just think they're one of those things, like, because they have to be in combat, they become a lot more situational rather than having, like, an aura. That is true. I didn't even notice that they were 3 attacks. That's a good call. Everything dies. Like, if you don't like models that die, don't play Sylvaneth, you know? Like, not to be a smartass, but that's kind of how I look at it, is like, I don't play this army because it's tanky. You know? You got to do your damage first is the main thing. And again, I'm coming from a Dark Eldar background in 40k, and even orcs have that similar interaction, or at least had for 8th and 9th edition, where you had to do your damage first, because you're just getting lifted if you don't. Glade Worm, this is one of the endless spells, if I remember right. Fearsome Mandibles. Yeah. So these actually get their own War Scroll, which is kind of cool. I actually like the way this interacts. It makes a lot of sense. Like, it seems like a logical choice. Like, this improves the flow of the game. Moves 8, has 7 health. You can banish it on a 7, 4-up save. It does 6 attacks, 4s and 2s, rend 1, D3, anti-wizard bonus rend. Like that. Like that. If this manifestation is not in combat... Oh! In your movement phase, you can teleport it, and it only has to be 3 inches from wizards. That's spicy. I like that. That is pretty spicy. And then pick an enemy wizard in combat. Subtract 1 from Yeah, this thing's pretty good. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. You pick one lore or the other, correct? Or do you get one manifestation lore and one regular lore, and you can choose, like, I assume there's, like, a generic manifestation lore that has the unaligned spells in it. Like, do you get both? Do you get the manifestation and the regular lore, or do you pick one or the other? Okay, I know what you're saying, correct, too. It's just funny because I kept talking. Vengeful Skullroot. I love this model, too. Pick an enemy unit within 3 inches of this manifestation to be the target. Yeah. Subtract an amount from the target's control score equal to the number of friendly units that have been destroyed by this battle. Subtract an amount from the target's control score. That's interesting. I don't know that I like it. I don't like having a bonus based on how much of my stuff dies. But it is something you could lean into or play into by taking like some cheaper throwaway type units. Not that there are a lot there. There's not much that's cheap in here, if I remember right, yet. Attacks, 3, hits on 4s, wounds on 2s. Alright, it's okay. Right, exactly. Pick a visible friendly unit within 3. Add 1 to run rolls and charge rolls for the target, or it has a ward 6. That one's pretty solid. But if you're doing bugs, yeah, you're not wrong. And that was where my brain was at, was like, man, if I just bring a lot of dryads, if I lose 10 dryads, oh well. Like, I'll just go get more dryads, right? And then the Awakened Wildwood now has a War Scroll. Which again, they have health. They can be killed. I assume that just replaces the monstrous rampages from last edition. So rather than having to have monsters to kill them, you can actually just go bonk them. They are obscuring, which is pretty neat. And I do think that that is going to really help lean into just like buckets of archers, you know? And the Gossamet archers, I think, are going to be great for that. This terrain, universal, blah, blah, blah. It has to be set up wholly within friendly territory, more than 3 inches from all objectives and other terrain features, blah, 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 blah. Each time you set up an Awakened Wildwood, you place 1 to 3 scenery pieces. If you place more than 1, they have to touch tips. And then add 2 to the health characteristic for each additional scenery. So a single one is 8. 2 of them would be 10. 3 of them would be 12. But you have to like make a cohesive tip touch. Enemy units can be targeted by shooting attacks made by friendly Sylvaneth units, even if they are behind or wholly on this terrain feature. And that's just so you know you can shoot through your own woods, even if they can't shoot back. And then once per turn. So actually, real quick, while I have you, Kevin. Yeah. I assume once per turn army means once per turn per army. Meaning, I guess what I'm meaning is like, it's not once per turn per model. It's just once per turn, I pick this ability for one of the models. Pick each enemy unit within this terrain features combat range to be the targets. Roll a die for a... Not bad. And then that, yeah, that should be just about it. Because this is all spearhead stuff. Like I said, overall, I don't know. I don't see the... And again, I don't have context. I haven't looked at anything else yet. This is the only thing I've looked at. But I just don't see the disappointment that other people have. Yep, okay, perfect. That the other people have voiced about this index. Maybe once I play some games, I'll kind of understand it more. But really, when I look at this index, I see things that are very useful. I see ways to build lists that synergize. I see ways to make different types of units work. You know, oh, do you want to play like a lot of dryads and maybe like revenants and stuff? Well, here's a detachment that will let you do that, and it will get them to increase their damage output. And then here's some characters that will also help them. And then, you know, like to me, the Kurnoth hunters, they don't really benefit from too much in the way of army rules, but they're just a really good war scroll, and there's some good character synergies with them. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it, is just like, they have a lot of synergy, and once I get them going and play some games with them, I'll see a bit more. But overall, I think they look solid. They look fun is the main thing to me. Like, at the end of the day, I still get to teleport. At the end of the day, I still get to do like dryad spam and laugh and giggle, and that's what I'm here for. So. There's a lot of tone down, but I really think we need to roll dice to really understand it for good or bad. And that's part of it, is like, I don't have the context of even having played a single game. I've read the rules, I understand theoretically how things work, but theoretical and practical are very different. And that's it. And it's kind of always been my mantra, you know, if there's a will, there's a way. I'm not going to not play Sylvaneth just because, like, oh man, they might not be good. Like, I love this army. Like, I love the way they play. I love the way they look. And even when, like, Drukhari were bottom of the barrel, still out there playing, man. And it was just like, I don't care. Witches aren't good. I don't care. I'm going to bring 20 of them. Bet. You know, like, it's just kind of who I am. Like, I look at the things that I like, and I'm like, okay, but how can I make this work? And it's that kind of, I think, I'm an American, you know, not an Americant. Like, I'm trying to approach things with a can-do attitude of, this is what I like. Can I actually make this a viable thing in which I get to play and have fun, you know? and just try to have that positive attitude, you know. And I agree, there's a lot of negativity out there, and you know, I don't begrudge people for being negative. You know, I've had a fairly negative attitude about 40K for a while, but my response to my own negative attitude was basically, I'm just not going to talk about it, right? Like, I might mention it in passing, or if somebody asks, but I'm not going to be like, oh, this is stupid, I hate this game, it sucks. Because, like, I don't want my opinion to influence your enjoyment of the game. You know? And that's one thing, like, I don't have a big platform, but I do have a platform. And so, like, I try not to bemoan a lot of things because I don't want my feelings to, like, influence your enjoyment of the game. If you're out there having fun with 40K, go out there and have fun with 40K. I'm not saying it's a bad game. I'm just saying it's not for me. You know, so, like that's always been kind of the mentality I try to take with a lot of this stuff. Yeah, I know, man. That's right. I like that. I'm going to have to use that. Oh, man. I don't even remember. Sherry said something to me last night, and it was bullshit. Like, she just was straight up telling bullshit, and she knew it. And I looked at her, and I was like, man, don't roofie me and call it romance. And she just stared at me. Like, what did you just say to me? But no, I like that. Don't yuck someone's yum. I like that. So, well, I am going to be working AoS back into the rotation now. Like I said, I've had some builds that I've had to get done for GW. I am officially monetized now. We hit 1,000 subscribers, so I'm making that YouTube money finally. Yay. So I appreciate everybody who's been liking and subscribing the videos. I appreciate everybody who's been out there supporting me the whole way. Again, fantastic. I appreciate it so much. And the kids have been on summer break. That's also put a damper on my... Yes, much excite. So, wow. Put a damper on my schedule. But I think we're going to be looking at doing a rotation of Fallout, Wasteland Warfare, Warcry, AoS, and Blood Bowl. I don't know what the rotation is going to look like. I'm going to start kind of working on that this weekend. And then maybe after I do some games of 40K and see if the changes have fixed anything, I'll work that back in. I don't think it's going to, because my issues with 40K stem from some of the core rule interactions, and it doesn't look like the ones that I have not enjoyed have gotten touched or changed. So we're going to wrap this up. Again, I appreciate everybody for watching. Thank you so much for the support. And we will see everybody next week with an episode of Raiding the Wasteland. And we'll probably talk about... Seraphon next week. Because I know I'm going to be able to get Eli playing soon. And if I have time, I'll talk about Night Haunt too, so we can get Izzy playing too. Thanks a lot. You guys have a wonderful day. Kevin, I expect to see you in the Warcry League, buddy. Later.